Comedian Patton Oswalt sat down for an interview with Salon. Now, that's already a little weird because Oswalt and Salon have had a feud for a while because Salon has criticized his jokes, and they've said, oh, you're punching up, and that's not the way comedy's supposed to be. And he's fired back and told them, you're way too PC and you don't understand comedy. And this has gone on and on for a while now. In fact, it was actually pretty entertaining to watch it. There were some times when Patton Oswalt just absolutely owned Salon. So it's strange that there's an interview going on now between the two of them. But in the interview, they asked him what he thinks about what they call the no-holds-barred atheism of Bill Maher and Richard Dawkins. And he said something a little strange, or I should say just not what I was expecting from him. He said the following, quote, I feel, as an atheist, about people like Richard Dawkins and Bill Maher, the way that Christians must feel about Fred Phelps. Okay, that's the guy from the Westboro Baptist Church. Let's pause here for a second. Come on, man. Seriously? So when you hear Richard Dawkins or Bill Maher make an argument, you're as embarrassed as a moderate Christian when they hear Fred Phelps protest the funerals of men and women that died fighting in Iraq, for example, or people who were celebrities who didn't do anything wrong to anybody. They wanted to protest Robin Williams' funeral. You feel the same way about Bill Maher that a moderate Christian would looking at these morons at the Westboro Baptist Church protesting everybody. You can't believe. Do you really believe that? No, come on, Patton. The thing that's so frustrating about this is we all know how smart Patton Oswalt is. He's a brilliant guy. He's a brilliant guy. Absolutely brilliant. So when he says something like that, it's like, oh, no, you didn't say that. Did you just say that? You didn't say that. Look, even if you disagree on some points with Maher and Dawkins and just the new atheist movement in general, say that. Don't say, therefore, they're as extreme as Fred Phelps is in the Christian community, because they're not that extreme. You know what would make Richard Dawkins or Bill Maher that extreme? For example, if they were in favor of going to all these different wars overseas, and they're not in favor of that. If they were in favor of taking away the rights of different groups of people, they're not in favor of that. So to make a comparison between people who vehemently oppose rights for everybody and who are the worst kind of venomous, grotesque people on the planet, to compare them to somebody who you slightly disagree with about the particulars of your atheism, when they're also, by and large, in favor of peace around the world and they're smart guys, that's not right, dude. It's just not right. He continues, quote, look, being an atheist means you don't give a fuck about what anyone believes in. I don't think any of it's real, but you can go ahead and do it. All right, pause again real quick. That's what Dawkins and Maher say as well. They don't want to force at the barrel of a gun everybody to be an atheist. That's not true at all. So you're acting like they don't believe that. They do believe that. They believe anybody could believe whatever the fuck they want to believe. He says, I'm not trying to destroy religion. Neither are they. They're not trying to destroy anything by force. They're just trying to convince people that their worldview is correct, which is what every other group on the planet does, right? He says, I just don't care about it. I live by experience, failure, learning, that kind of stuff. Everyone that goes, but all the war is because of religion, blah, blah, blah. Well, then you're no different than the housewife that's like, my son killed himself because of a Judas Priest record. No, your son killed himself because he was an unstable idiot. Those people started wars because they were unstable idiots. They stumbled across this religion thing, but if they hadn't found that book, they would have found something else. So there's the crux of the disagreement. So first, let's clarify here. Bill Maher and Richard Dawkins have never, ever, ever said that all war is because of religion. Not true. It's not true. They've gone as far, Maher has gone as far, I don't know what Dawkins has said, but Maher has gone as far in one example to say most war is caused by religion, and you can argue over that, and that's a fine disagreement to have, but none of them ever said all war is because of religion. So let's just clear that out of the way right here. So you're wrong about that, Patton. But then when he says, look, these people would have found something that would have been the vessel for their violence, even if it wasn't religion. This is a common disagreement you see between progressives and more hardline new atheists, let's call them. And my response has always been the same on this issue. You guys are probably tired of hearing it, but you're both right. So when he says that, my response to Patton Oswalt is, yes, in many cases you're right. In many cases, you have religion, which is the vessel for the anger that's there because of other reasons. But where Patton Oswalt is wrong is that that's not all cases. That's not. It's simply not true to say that religious violence is a masking or the vessel through which you do violence for other reasons. No, sometimes it is the root of the violence. Sometimes it is the root of the radicalization. So I've given these examples on air before, but think about, to back up Patton Oswalt's argument here, first we'll do that. If you look at the radicalization in Iran and in the Palestinian territories, that's almost totally due to it's religion being the vessel for anger felt in other ways. The Palestinians, because they're occupied and they have no freedom. So in that case, yes, an increase in religious radicalization is linked to something else. In Iran, it's because in 1953, America overthrew their government, the democratic leader, and put in a dictator. And then there was a rise in radicalization in the 60s and the Ayatollah, and in the 70s, and in 1979, there was a religious revolt and a revolution, and they took over the government. And that rise in religious radicalization wasn't just because of religion, it was because of other political factors. So that's to back up Patton Oswalt's argument. But to back up what Bill Maher and Richard Dawkins are saying, there's the example of Saudi Arabia and the example of Qatar. In Saudi Arabia, you had Wahhabism predates American imperialism, and it predates all the problems that have led to a rise in radicalization for political reasons today. So back then, there was no, hey, let's blame this on something else. It was people who read the Quran, had a fundamentalist interpretation of the Quran, and they acted in accordance with that. So that's just because of the religion. You can't say that's because of other factors. It's just not. Same with Qatar. In Qatar, they're an oil-rich country that's an ally of ours. Well, it turns out that even though they're oil-rich and they're prosperous and they're our ally, we're not fucking their shit up, right? Well, there's still an incredible level of religious radicalization. And it's because of religion. They invite militant jihadists to give speeches in their biggest mosque, which is state-funded, and they play it on state TV. So that's an example to back up Bill Maher and Richard Dawkins, that sometimes you can't say that the people were just idiots and they were violent and they were going to find some way to justify it. No, sometimes they're normal people who are only radicalized because they believe in the religion. So, again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here time and time again, but I'm tired of the polarization on this issue, where it's like you have some people who are like, it's all the religion always, and other people who are like, it's never the religion, bro, it's like other things, so atheists, like, chill out, bro. No. You're both right. Sometimes it's just the religion, sometimes it's not just the religion. But for Patton Oswalt to go out there and, act like these guys are dumb or the enemy, talking about Bill Maher and Richard Dawkins, and that they're so egregiously wrong, they're as wrong as Fred Phelps. Patton, that's just silly, and I think, honestly, that you kind of know that's silly, and you were just going over the top here, and maybe you were going over the top specifically because you're sitting down across from Salon, and you know how uber progressive Salon is, and that they really don't like the new atheists, so you were kind of feeding into that a little bit, and say, I'm on your side a little bit here, man. Look, I don't even want to get into his, as to why he answered the question the way he answered. All I'll say is, it's wrong, man. Bill Maher and Richard Dawkins are not the Fred Phelps of atheism.